I think having a passion helps if you're working in international development. I think patience is really important.
Above all else, I think the biggest trait is humility and a willingness to just do grunt work.
In the work experience video, I talked about how you can build up work experience for a career in the charities and development sector, like a patchwork blanket, with different types of experiences being like blocks that go into that patchwork. So the internships, work in the private sector, volunteering, research, or self-study. Whatever industry you're looking at, it's important that you can talk confidently about the skills you've gained and the experiences you've had, and how you could use those in the role that you're applying to or thinking about. As part of our International Development and Charities festivals, some of our speakers talked about the skills that they see as being particularly key, both now and in the future. A common theme was the ability to work effectively and sensitively in multicultural environments.
So look for experiences that will make you speak with different people who are not necessarily from your own background. That will help, because most of these international organizations also have people from various backgrounds.
Because I believe development happens around people. And therefore, if you can relate to people directly on the ground, which I started to do, after I grew out of that sort of personal connecting.
I think it's also important to get some exposure to a developing country context, if that is where you would like to work. Of course, there are also positions working from the Western world, say, where you don't really spend that much time there. But if you're going to have a more hands-on job and you've never spent time in a developing country context, it's really valuable to try that out first.
I think definitely being committed to diversity and inclusion, that's incredibly important. Like, you'll be working with very diverse populations, different cultures, different religions, different sects, different types of people within an organization, which is really fantastic and exposes you to different people. But you need to be very open to that and sensitive of people's situations and backgrounds.
While I was doing volunteer work in Africa and India, I learned that it was really easy for all of us to get the savior complex, right? We do so much and we derive so much of joy in helping someone else. But then a lot of times the mistake that we end up making is that we assume that they want to be like us because we are the saviors and we need to help them be more like us. And this is a rookie mistake that everybody starting out in development makes. They want to be like us. They want to enjoy the same lifestyle as us. And that is the wrong mindset to have. We learn from them. We learn about their context, their knowledge, their belief systems. And from there, and we take all of that, and then we learn how to apply what we know from our little bubble to another context. So if anything, we learn more in the process, and we should be humbled and grateful for this.
So what other skills did our speakers pick out? Please remember as you watch this next bit of the video that this is very dependent on the sort of role that you go into. So the skills you might need for something in monitoring and evaluation will look quite different to the skills that you would need in fundraising or media and communications or fieldwork or volunteer management. Please don't think that you need to have every skill that's mentioned here, or indeed that you need to have it to a really advanced level of expertise at an early stage in your career. What I would advise you to do as you listen to our speakers is, well, number one, listen to the way that they talk about the skills and how they're applicable to their job, because that's going to help you to be able to do the same thing in applications. But also think about these skills. Which ones do you think you're already starting to get quite good at? Which ones do you enjoy? Which ones would you like to develop further? And are there any that you're not so keen on, and perhaps you're going to look for a role where that's much less important?
Data analysis skills, a lot of skills in the tech space that are very connected to the international development sector, GIS or big data or, AI.
Data is poor in a lot of countries that we as global health consultants work in. And so some sort of familiarity with quantitative analysis, if you're able to do interviews as well, qualitative type interviews, that would be a really good skill to have, because information gathering is super important.
Digital or technology skills, that would help you for sure. Anything with analytics, data, visualization, identifying how do you bring out insights from data would be an asset.
Second language courses would be really, really helpful, just in terms of like where you're able to work, how you communicate with people in general, like improving your CV. Second languages are often required. It's normally what they call the UN major languages, but again, it depends where you want to work or what context, because every language is helpful depending on the area of the world that you want to go to. But for example, like Arabic, French, English and Spanish is kind of the main ones.
Most of these organizations have different teams, but one of the teams that where language is very important and is where you're on the field, let's say on the field in Israel or Nigeria or India, sometimes the local language gets very important, and those jobs have a specific consideration that learn a particular language, and it'll be helpful if you apply to such jobs, your rate of selection is higher. Having said that, there are other jobs which do not need the field experience and that do not necessarily need the language requirements. So be careful on what you want to do. And if I'd recommend you to learn a language, I'd definitely say French for most of these international organizations.
I would say somewhere in those first few years, you need to get some sort of hard skill. So I've got one person I know in my own family, actually, who at one point stopped what they're doing, made what looked like a sideways move, but they went there to get project management skill. And when they got that, they re-entered the international development field.
So anything certification skills that will help with project management, events, multicultural experiences are always good to go.
Good report writing. I know as a Cambridge student, you have to write a lot for papers or exams. So a good writing background is super key.
So yeah, so you need to be quick. You need to be not afraid to change priorities or change projects, because overnight sometimes funding gets stopped, or things like that happen, and the next day morning you'll be working on something totally different that was probably not there for the last 3-4 months.
I hope you found this video a useful starting point for further research into key skills that you might need in the development sector. To hear more from our speakers, you can check out our other videos as part of the International Development and Charities Festival, or you can use Alumni Careers Connect to find alumni working in the third sector and have a more personal conversation about your particular interests and what skills you might find useful to develop. Whatever you choose, good luck.